what I want you to do is just think for a couple of seconds about what you think leadership is, and if you can pop up with, stick a hand up or shout out with, what does leadership mean to you?
I'm Sandra. For me, I would think that leadership is an attitude more
Yeah.
than a job. It is an attitude that a person might need to possess in order to lead or to guide a group or a person or anything in general.
Okay, that sounds good. So let's have a look at this quote here. Management's about persuading people to do things they don't want to do, while leadership is about inspiring people to do things that they never thought they could. Any idea who said that? It was Steve Jobs. Do you know who Steve Jobs is, by the way? I know you probably do, Amna, but do any of you?
Yes, we do.
Good. Oh, good. That's excellent. Okay, so we can see here that management and leadership are two entirely different things, and obviously that's why we've got different words for them. So what kind of terms, if we were to use adjectives to describe leadership, what kind of words do you think we would use?
I think of the word patience and tolerance.
Patience and tolerance, yeah.
Courage.
Courage, okay, good.
Responsibility.
Yep.
A sense of assurance that other people can be dependent on you.
Good.
Sense of security.
Yep.
The ability to take people along with you instead of pushing them yourself.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, if we think about understanding what and whom we're talking about here, okay, because as Steve Jobs said, leadership's about inspiration, and that's not always about taking the business up to the next level. It's about getting the most from the team so that the business works more efficiently. It's about coaching the best out of the individual for the sake of the team, and building capability within the team and managing people, not necessarily managing a business, because you've got business managers to do that, and that is something different. So think about traits that good leaders have, and how do you think they should use them?
I believe that perseverance plays a really good role in leadership.
Yep.
I believe in understanding between one another.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Anything else?
The way I look at it, it's like working in a mine. So if it's only one person, of course he will get the job done, but it will take more time. But if the whole team together perseveres, and like the mine will be done a bit quicker. So the more hands we have, the faster we will break through walls and challenges and succeed faster and bigger possible.
Okay, good.
I think one of the most important things that comes to mind is communication. Because without communication, there's no way that the team would work.
Sounds good. Anyone else before we move on?
I think that's all.
All right. Well, generally, good leaders are compassionate, and they understand the tasks that they want their team to carry out, and they won't ask anyone to do more than they will do themselves. So, in other words, that they're willing to roll up their sleeves when they need to and get stuck in, as Amar mentioned there. However, that shouldn't ever be to the detriment of the team or the objective of the team. So some people think they can do it all when really they can't, and that can make the business and the team suffer. A good leader will also understand what they can do and understand why they hired people to do their jobs and let them do them. So what we're going to do here is look at a number of factors and traits that make good leaders. All right, so in no particular order, I'm just going to shout them out. I'm just going to push them out here. Resilience is one. What I'm going to ask you to do here is, for each of the terms that comes up, if you can write something very, very briefly, or I think there's something like 11 terms that I'll tell you what, let's get them all up here. Communication, we've already had that. And so what I want you to do is write down what each of these terms means. Not a definition of it, but how a leader would use these traits. Humanity, empathy, integrity, humility, different to humanity, appreciation, accountability, vision, understanding.
Okay, Amna Nasir has talked about resilience. In leadership is about resilience, and leadership is about bouncing back no matter how difficult a situation becomes when working with others.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Could I talk about accountability?
Yes, indeed, please do.
I think a good leader should have the skill of accountability, whereas you know, when something good happens, they're able to praise their team and, you know, appreciate their efforts. And when something goes wrong, they're able to stand up and, you know, they're able to quickly come up with a solution, not let their team panic.
Excellent. Yeah, sounds good there. Yeah,
Can I talk about humility?
please do.
So I think humility is a very important aspect of a leader, because of the fact that as a leader, it's not your job to know everything, to be the strongest, the fastest. Your job is to guide other people. Your job is to bring the group together. It's not about being the best. It's about making sure that you bring the group together, you hold them together, you're able to encourage a shared space where ideas can be shared without any judgment, where ideas can be looked at in a objective light, and everyone can come together to let out the best in other people and not just show off that you yourself are the best. So you have to have humility as a leader and know
Yeah.
that I'm not supposed to be the best. I have to bring people together. I have to make sure that they are included, that their ideas are heard.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Zainab has posted something. Zainab Afzal posted, communication is the ability of exchanging ideas between individuals. Then we have Isuri. Isuri has posted, a leader must have a keen eye to recognize ability in their team members to designate specific tasks according to the strengths of their members for maximum quality and effectiveness. Then we have Mariam, who talks about good communication skills help develop understanding between members of the team and help them cope with difficult situations that may come up.
Yeah, very good. Both of those.
Yeah, and for the boys of myself, talking about communication, so I wrote communication skills are important as a good leader. So he must be able to get all points and factors about a win, loss, or the task at hand through to
Yep.
the respective members of the team who are working on that certain aspect of the situation. Then we have Mac talking about integrity. So integrity in leadership is about being honest or being reliable. Various leaders act according to their own words, so they don't fall back on them on what they say.
Good.
We have Irtiza. I think he's talking about appreciation again, which is appreciation in leadership generates a feeling of self-worth in employees. Giving appreciation is important because it boosts self-esteem for the giver and who receives, and this creates a deeper human connection between the leader and the receiver.
Excellent. Very good. Any more, or are we about
Yes,
done there? Yep.
Zainab Afzal has posted on vision is a necessity when striving for goodness of your team. A must have in order to have a purpose to run and base your team on. I would also add my own viewpoint on empathy and understanding, which I think is a correlating topics. Because as previously, when Sir you had asked about what type of traits a leader should consist of, I talked about understanding. Therefore, a leader should be able to understand or feel what the others are experiencing, or they have to have had an experience with such a situation that their team members have gone through for them to, feel their team members, their stress, their distress, and be able to help them overcome it.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's go through them in order, tick them off as we go. I think we've had some really good explanations there. If we look at the last one there, understanding, a good leader is going to understand the team's strengths and weaknesses, and they'll offer support and encouragement when it's required. But also when it's not required, it's about recognizing which people do what best and allowing them to do it without micromanaging. That can be a bit of a pain, and interviewing with the way that it gets done. To understand as well that you employed the people for their skills, and so you have to be able to let them get on with it. Let's have a look at vision. This is being able to see the bigger picture, and not only over the next couple of weeks or months, but the vision is about a long-term strategy. So it's not necessarily looking at short-term goals. So it's having the bigger picture in mind, understanding where you want to be in a year, in 2 years, or in 5 years, and emphasize that you want the team to be with you. It's really important to always let them know that you're going to carry them on. So the best job in the world is one that you never want to leave, and the same applies to the best leader as well. People don't want to leave good leaders. Resilience, being resilient here is being able to take the blows when they come along. So to be able to carry the team when times are tough, encourage other team members all the time, and be willing to listen to other ideas from the team, even if they're bad ideas. Does anyone have you heard of the band Aerosmith? Possibly not. They might be a little bit in the past for you, might be a little bit oldie, but have a look at Aerosmith, because what they used to do is they used to have a bad idea day where anyone could put their worst ideas up without being shot down in flames. And a couple of songs, Love in the Elevator and Dude Looks Like a Lady, they're great tunes, by the way, were a couple of really good results from the bad ideas day. So that's always a good idea. Integrity, this is a good one. It's really important to have integrity. It means being honest and frank and completely transparent, taking in what your team members say without holding a grudge against them, and also having them understand that even if you're telling them off, that you don't have a grudge against them. So Alex Ferguson always used to say, hopefully you all know who he is. He was a Manchester United manager, and when he used to give the team a telling off or give the players a telling off, that was it. It was finished with. He would never mention it again. So it's not one of these things that you regurgitate time and time again. But also be clear in your goals and what you want from your team. Be open to criticism yourself from the team. And again, without recourse, because if someone criticizes you and then you trick it in their face, they're never going to trust you again. So it's really important that you're able to take things on the chin too. Also, a good leader is going to defend the staff in front of other staff members or other people, and they won't make knee-jerk reactions and take matters into account before making what could be life-changing decisions. If there is a need, then training should be put into place to support the staff. So if someone's not really pulling their weight, they need training for that. A good leader's comments will never be personal. They'll only be professional. So you'll never make comments about, I guess personal appearance might come into it, but again, that's having tact there as well. Also, we've spoken already about humility. Yeah, you need that to understand when you've made a mistake and accept that you've made the mistake. And what's really important is admitting to it and appreciating it when others own up to theirs as well. So the worst thing you can do with a mistake is try and cover it up, as it's just going to encourage others to do the same. And also, if you do tell someone off, don't do it in front of other people. Always take someone to the side to do it. Right. By the way, if you want to take notes while you're doing this, and if there's something you think I've missed, I'd really appreciate it if you shout it out. And I would like to add to that, or I think if you could do this, or if this works, then that would be great. I'd really appreciate that.
I think that one thing that's missing in the traits that you'd mentioned here could be sense of focus a leader should be having. They should be able to, be determined in whatever that they're doing, in whatever tasks that they're taking. They should have like a driving factor that enables them to move forward. Yeah,
very good point. Very good point. Vision might come under that for sure. Okay, so moving on. If we look at objectivity, it's really, really. I guess you know what that's not on there, is it? Where is it? I didn't put that down. Objectivity. Does anyone know what objectivity is?
Without bias.
Yeah, definitely. So making objective observations. Objective is really important. Every leader must have that trait. It's being able to take a step back and take personality out of the equation. So you don't think of people as individuals in this instance. You look at situations and see how they came about and what makes each side operate. So personally, you might dislike somebody, but you must take that out of the equation here. So you're looking at merit here and merit alone. Now, someone also mentioned recognizing ability. And so that's seeing how people work best and allowing them the freedom to make the best of what they do. Again, this is for the good of the team and ultimately the business. So let them fly. Shackling a hard grafter because they don't tick boxes, all that does is it stunts enthusiasm and creativity, and it will encourage people only to tick the box, only to do what they're supposed to do, rather than spreading their wings and flying and moving into other areas. You'll get far more from people if you let them express themselves. So the best colleagues I've worked with are always going to go well above and beyond their job description because they're allowed to create. So saying to someone that while they do great things but no one knows about them, that's rubbish. Some people don't like being in the spotlight. They prefer to get on with their work and let the results speak. So forcing your staff to tick boxes will kill creativity. It will dampen team spirit, and ultimately it will damage your business. So a brief monthly report is all that you need, so that you can chat things over there. Being resilient, as someone mentioned, yes, it's about taking things on the chin and carrying the team when times are tough, encouraging other team members all the time. Communication. Good leaders are able to communicate well with other types of personalities and on all levels, from the office cleaner up to the HR manager. Again, this is something Alex Ferguson used to do. He knew all of the staff by name, even the cleaners, the people that made the tea, and right up to the top execs. And you address them all with the same amount of respect as well. This will usually take experience, and that's obviously gained by speaking to many people in lots of different areas of staffing and withholding a judgment against people all the time. Communication is about being clear and concise and making sure that everyone knows what each of their roles are. So that's very important. Time will tell that if someone is a good or a bad person. Now, I mentioned there about everyone knowing what their roles are. And yes, it's important to know what your roles are, but also looking at, as I mentioned before, not only sticking to your own role, not only ticking the box. It's important that you're willing to go the extra mile for the team. Empathy. A good leader of the team is going to have empathy with the weakest members of the team and offer support where it's needed and when it's needed. You know the old expression about a chain being as strong as its weakest link. That means what we have to do is help to make that link stronger. So we have to support that link, encourage it, and help the weaker or less experienced team member, because sometimes it's just experience that comes into play, become better at what they do and inspire them to want to be better rather than hide away from the rest of the team. So a good leader is going to take time out to speak to them about other things other than work as well. When you take away the emphasis of that aspect for the first 10 or 15 minutes of a chat, that can bring someone in. It can put them at ease. And so then it doesn't feel like you're getting a telling off. Sometimes people also see having support as a weakness, and that's not necessarily the case. Show them possibly where they're going wrong and where you can support them better, and throw a few ideas at them as well without making them more boxes to tick. You can have a similar chat again a couple of weeks later and see how things have progressed, and chances are that your team member is going to appreciate you for that as well. Humanity is understanding that we each have problems outside work as well that can have an effect in work. And so rather than saying don't bring your problems to work, that's not a good way of addressing things. Ask them if they need a day off or time off to sort the matters out, or if they can chat to somebody about it. There's no need to offer advice either, because sometimes people don't want advice, they just want someone to shut up and listen. Don't put yourself in their position either and say what you would do, because you're a different person, and it's very, very likely you won't be able to put yourself in that position. You won't understand that position because you're a different person. Reassure them that they're safe in their job and that you will do all that you can to help them as well. And by doing this, you're going to take the pressure off them as far as the job's concerned, and so they'll be encouraged to think less about the outside problems because they feel safe at work. That's a really important point. Humility as well. Be humble enough to recognize when you're going in the wrong direction, and be a man or woman enough to admit it and change tactics accordingly. We mentioned earlier about being able to admit your mistakes. And this is very important as well. Don't pass the blame on to others. Make sure your team's on board and have them acknowledge and understand that you need help too. It's not a sign of weakness that you need help. It's a sign that you're able to realize when to change your mind. Good leaders are continually learning. They never stop learning. And the best are certainly willing to have their minds changed. Accountability. A good leader is accountable for their actions and knows how and what they do affects both the team and the individual morale. So again, you're looking at the whole of the team and you're looking at individual members as well. A good leader also needs to recognize when they have to accept responsibility and take a hit rather than passing the book onto someone else's shoulders. So ultimately, they're the ones who get paid the most, and so they're the ones who are responsible for how the team performs, and they're the ones who are supposed to train and coach members, and they are when the buck has to stop. Appreciation. Now, I left this till last because I think it's really important to understand that appreciating the team, because it doesn't necessarily mean an Employee of the Month award or something like that, because I think honestly I don't think they're very good. I think that a better way of doing something there would be to if you've got someone that's worked exceptionally well, bring them in the office and say, you've had a fantastic month, I'm really pleased with the way you're going. There's a bit of a bonus in your pay packet. Sometimes you haven't got the funds to do that, the means to do that. So one tactic I used to employ to show my appreciation was I used to cook my staff their dinner once a month, and I honestly used to do this. Sometimes it could take me the whole night to do it, but the end result was always appreciated. It was something that the teachers used to look forward to as well. Also, not only cooking the food, it saves you money, but it also it boosts morale to the staff members, because they know that you've gone to the trouble to add a personal touch as well. And cooking for sort of 15 or 20 people isn't the easiest thing in the world, as I'm sure some of you out there might know. So if it's a massive staff, you might not always be able to do that, but providing a free lunch for them once a month is a good gesture. It certainly gets them on side. I think that's about it. Let's have a look. Objectivity is not on there, but I have covered it. So does anyone want to jump in with any comments there before we move on?
Someone recommended that we add confidence to the traits
Excellent.
of leadership.
Who was it that said that, and how would they put confidence over?
Well, Zainab Afzal said it, and she hasn't said about why, but she just said that it should be added. And she also recommended optimism.
Yeah, very good. Okay, let's have a look at those two. Confidence, what you have to be careful about with confidence is not being a know-it-all, having confidence in your team to do what they're supposed to do.
I guess you could say that you should be confident in the limited knowledge that you have.
As well?
Sorry, about 3 people spoke there. Could we have a hand up and maybe one at a time?
Can it be about self-confidence as well? Like a person who is having that ability to lead should have the
Yeah, we lost you there. I totally agree with you. Confidence is very important, but also some people are so confident they can't see where they're going wrong. That's happened a couple of times in my career. I had a boss who's heading it just going in the wrong direction, can't see it. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so as I was saying, so confidence within an individual who's like having that ability to lead, he and she should believe that that the person is confident within whatever traits that he or she possesses in order to lead a team to whatever spot that they believe that they could be leading to.
Yeah, very good.
So that's what I mean by confidence. And one more added trait I spoke about was optimism. Is that if you're very optimistic with whatever like you're with obstacles, with eventually that may end up as failures, or if you're optimistic about certain things that could eventually change the attitude of the whole team. So eventually it could result into the whole team being optimistic. So they would be forced to look into the bright side of the whole outcome.
Yeah, I think it's always important to be positive about things and see the best of situations. But you also must recognise, where things are going wrong as well, and possibly not look too much on the bright side, and make sure that you do address issues. But yeah, for sure, yeah, positivity is very important. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anyone else got any ideas or comments on?
I just wanted to check upon how much leaders should believe on ethics, ethical considerations.
Yeah, I think that comes under humility, doesn't it? Being open to suggestion. I think you should always be ready to listen to ideas, because again, the bad ideas, day with Aerosmith, even bad ideas, you can get good things out of them. So it's very important to be open to ideas. Yeah. Okay, I think we're coming to the end there.
Mr. Andy, if you could take us through on how to create your podcast, because you are the most favorable icon over there. Among whosoever I have viewed, you are the best. So can you give some tips to my students on podcasting?
Yeah, of course I can. For me, the most important thing is, let's look at the technical things first. So, technical things. Does everyone look at when they look at a podcast, or if we call it a screencast, yeah, or a video cast? Podcasts were generally radio things, but we're sort of more looking into video now. So when people look at video casts, they tend to look at them on computers. It's still the case. I know lots of people use their phones. Now, when you film, turn your phone to landscape, because you can look at landscape on a phone and a computer. But if you're looking at it at portrait, you can't, you don't want to turn your computer on its side. So you want the visuals to be good. Okay, because you're looking at a video, the eyes need to be happy about this. So always turn your camera to landscape. Have a good background in there, and what you'll see an awful lot of is what I see an awful lot of is people in cars with glasses and hats. Personally, I don't think that sunglasses as well. I don't think that creates a good impression. I think it's someone trying to look cool. So have something nice behind you. Have a decent backdrop as well there. Understand what you're talking about. That's very important. Have a list of points that you want to put across. Now, with the casts that I do with my wife, we have the sort of two of us and then a guest, and so we do them by Zoom because of lockdown. And so we bounce ideas off each other first. We see which kind of guests we get on. Now, having a decent guest is very important, because you don't want someone that's going to sit there and bore people to death. So guest is very important, subject's very important. Again, the aesthetics are important, the way you dress, the way you're presented, and being able to engage people as well is very important. So if you're doing it with a partner, I don't know if you've seen True Geordie. It's an English podcast, and you've got two guys on there. They're totally different people. One of them's a great big bald bodybuilder, and the other one's sort of a wimpy-looking guy. And they have different guests on. They have some very famous guests on there. If you've never heard of them, they're some of the biggest people you've never heard of, because they have millions of viewers every week on their podcasts. Farzan and I, we have a couple of hundred. But we're looking for more subscribers as well, so please subscribe. And I don't know if there's much more I can say about that, about doing the podcast. Now, getting it out there is different. Getting people to watch it is far more difficult, and subscribe. If you want to monetize your podcast, then I think you need 1,000 subscribers on YouTube before they'll monetize it. So it's important getting people to subscribe. So I think if you can get lots of friends and family to subscribe, and so they don't have to watch it. If they do, it's brilliant. And have the things on, have your videos on sort of repeat until they've all gone through, and watching the adverts as well, because that's going to help make you money if you watch the adverts. But again, make sure you do a lot of promotion on social media, on your platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and whatever else there are out there as well. I think YouTube's one of the first places people go for research as well now, so it's a good source out there as well. But again, guests are really important. If you can get good guests, then you're doing really well. For ours, we've had David Christen, Stephen Krashen, Dr. Vangelis Siligiris, Alcide. Does anyone know Alcide? He's the artist that does the great big sort of calligraphy things on buildings over there. We interviewed him. Couple of TV stars as well from the UK. And also, if you're short of someone to interview, then just have a chat with your team member or your podcast partner about certain aspects of what you're doing. Farzan and I did one on non-verbal communication and communication techniques as well. How different people, how you talk to different people who've got different personalities. And so they can be engaging while you don't necessarily have to have a decent guest in there, as long as you've got something that you could talk about and engage people. But feel free to give ours a look. It's called the Ninja and the Gora Daily. She's the ninja and I'm obviously the Gora. Have a look at it and make some comments and tell us what you think, and subscribe as well, because that will help.
I did place it for you in the chat box so the students can do that, because some of the interviews that you have recently conducted during this uncertain COVID situation, and there were a lot of experts. I really enjoyed, viewing them. They were so much informative as compared to, reading a book or even reading a newspaper. That was actually very depressing. So
Yeah.
I also like to get you all involved in an activity with Mr. Andy. I'm going to share a screen, if that's fine with you, Mr. Andy.
Yep.
And I'm going to give you situations to work on. I see a show of hands. First, I would like Amar and Sandra to speak up if they have anything to say, and then I'm going to share my screen and we can go ahead with the activity.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, sir.
Hello.
So my future plan is to get into radio broadcasting, and so for that, I've been planning on making my own podcast, and I'm in the initial stage for it. Although I've made some, several podcasts related to my English language course, which had a topic on podcasting. So we had made some samples on it. Although I was not satisfied with the level of, if we're talking about technical ways, the sound capacity, as normally podcasts which are done by professionals or just people who are really good at it, they have a proper noise cancellation feature on their software, and as far as my research, I have not found anything. But if you would recommend any software with a proper noise cancellation feature which would enable more more gain in sound quality.
Right. Okay. That's a very difficult one because it depends on where you're doing your podcast. If you're doing it live out in the street, obviously that's very difficult to cancel noise out. My past in media production was video, and so we used to use the furry microphones. That would cancel an awful lot of wind. If you're doing it indoors, you should be okay. Just make sure that you're in a cupboard away from any outside noise. But if you are outside, first of all, you need to reduce as much noise as you can on the day, and then once you've got your work into the edit studio, I don't know. I think you'd have to Google for some decent software out there because, as I say, mine was in video rather than audio. But there are things out there. I think Audacity. I think.
That, yes.
Yeah, have a look at that and see what that does. I know that you can knock peaks and troughs off and reduce increase or reduce the original sound there. And I work with Final Cut Pro when I do the video, and it's just sort of clicking and taking noise out while people are speaking that I would do really rather than work with the graphics or the graphic equalizer. I don't know. You could play around with that if you. What software do you use?
As of now, I kind of use a software that's already downloaded on my laptop in the recording section.
The best thing to do, have a look on YouTube and Google noise reduction in recorded sound. Yeah, I think but obviously try and reduce as much as you can at source.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
always going to help.
Amar, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had a few questions. First of all, finding, I personally, even if I'm talking to my best friend, I find it's hard to think of things to think about, mostly because I'm afraid that we are currently on the same wavelength. So how hard is it to actually make up scenarios or make up ideas that you can talk about and you're confident enough that the viewers and the audience will actually enjoy and approach your channel more often?
Ideas, that's probably the hardest one. So normally I find I have ideas when I'm dropping off to sleep, so I've always got the phone by me, not so that I can sort of the first thing I reach for when I wake up, well, it is actually to turn the alarm off, but also so that I can either voice record or I can type ideas that I have just as I'm dropping off to sleep, because I'm sure loads of you have done it as well. You're going off to sleep and you think, yeah, that's a great idea. I'll remember that in the morning. When the morning comes, of course, you totally forget it. Have a book with you all the time as well. Good writers will have a pad that they write their notes on. So when you have a good idea, make sure you get it down. Also, if it's a good idea to you, it's probably going to be a good idea to someone else as well. So don't be worried about your ideas, and try and see them through as much as possible. But again, that is probably the most difficult thing, coming up with something that's going to grab everyone's attention, which is why not everyone is a podcaster, I guess. So yeah, just keep at it, and write your ideas down so that you don't forget them. It's very important as well. Yeah.
The next one would be like, for someone who isn't that good of a communicator, would you rather advise them to continue pursuing like a podcast if they do want to do it? Would you advise them to continue doing a podcast or open a blog instead?
Think about what's more engaging. All right, not everyone, certainly these days as well. I know when I was your age, people read a lot more, but it's definitely going out of fashion. So people like the instant hit, and they like visuals because we've got phones with us all the time. Or you can have earphones as well, when you're on the bus or whatever. So I think oral or visual are definitely the way forward. So I think if you're an absolute expert in your field, you'll get people coming to your blog, but you're going to have more people come to your podcasts and your vlogs than you are your blog. I think that's for sure. So if this is what you want to do, if you want to go down the podcast route, then practice makes you better. Always have your script written out as well, so that if you're stuck, then you can fall back to your script. Practice before you go on air as well, so that you look more natural, you sound more natural. Record 2 or 3 different versions of it, and the best bits of each version, stick them together into one clip. Make sure you've got a decent software as well. I use Final Cut Pro. It is an industry standard. People who make films for the big screen use Final Cut Pro, so that's very, it's always important that you've got decent software so that you can do the most with your work. You see, so if you've got 2 or 3 people interviewed, or you've got 2 or 3 different camera angles, then you can cut and adjust as you go, cutting from different camera angles. So that's very important. But again, the most important thing is your subject matter. And make sure you understand that there's a call for it as well. You'd be amazed at the kind of stuff that there is on YouTube that's got millions of hits and millions of followers.
Sir, so I had a question on the interview style that you use usually in podcasts. So as far as I've done some samples, it's mostly a structured, a very scripted. There's no last minute feedbacks or anything that's not added into the script. So is it when you are conducting your podcast, you're using a structured interview, or is it mainly like a semi-structured, based on the script and also any few responses of the respondents?
Obviously, I don't know what the people are going to say, because these guys are from, the ones we've had recently, they are the best experts in the world. They are leading authorities on the planet. So you don't get people who are more experienced than these guys, and so they know far more than I do. And so what I have to do is I have to look at where my interest is. So I've got a list of questions that I ask them. I don't prepare them with questions usually either. I just give them the questions as we go. I like to put them on the spot, like you are doing with me now. And so you get a more natural response when you do that. Now, sometimes what they'll do is they will naturally go into the next question. And so if you've got your questions in front of you, then you can tick them off as you go, or you can write things down, because sometimes things crop up while they're talking that you want them to elaborate on. And so always make sure you've got a set of questions in front of you, and a pen and a paper that you can write on and make notes as you're going along. But always trust in the person you're interviewing as well. That's very important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andy. Thank you, everyone, for the session.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.